Hey, what's up guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on this absolute beauty of a TV. It's the Samsung Q9FN. Now, for those who are not aware, this is Samsung's 2018 line of QLED TVs. It's come a long way since 2017 or even 2016. The model that you can find in front of me is a 55-inch that can be currently found for around £2,100. Initially it launched for around £2,500 to £3,000, but I'll be reviewing at the £2,100 price range. Now in this video I'll be reviewing it in terms of my own personal experience and giving you a little bit of an overview of it. To give you a little bit of description about myself, I haven't reviewed many TVs, however I've reviewed about over 110 different PC gaming monitors that come from all shapes and sizes and all types of technology. So I was very much intrigued to see how this would compare as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the design and build quality. Now the TV itself is standing on a normal stand itself. It can be mounted as well if you so wish on a wall. In terms of the stand itself, it doesn't provide any sort of height or tilt adjustments. However, I did find it to be relatively sturdy on my TV stand. And you can see it's got a very nice solid metal build quality over here, which is to be expected from a massive TV. Now in terms of the overall thickness, it's not going to be as thin as an OLED TV, but nevertheless it is very thin and very sleek, and I think Samsung have done a fantastic job in terms of the overall build quality, especially at the back. It looks like something that is designed to stay in your living room. Now following on with the design and build quality of the TV itself, I should also talk about the One Connect box. Now the One Connect box comes included with the TV, as you'd expect, simply because it is where it houses all the inputs and outputs of the TV. It connects up via the TV via the One Connect cable, which is around 5 meters long, and it connects to the back of the TV, and then all your inputs and outputs, as I said, are found on this box. Now you've got 4 HDMI outputs. One of them is made for ARC. You've got and they're all 2.0 ports. You've got a LAN port, optical output as well for, let's say, a soundbar or what have you. You've got aerial cables and also external link cable. Then you've got an 8-pin prong to power the actual unit itself. And on the side you've got 5 USB 5V 5 amp outputs, and these are quite useful if you want to plug in, for example, the Chromecast, which I have connected. So now moving on to the remotes, you've got 2 remotes included in the box. You've got the left-hand one, which is a more sleeker looking one that has a voice control button, which means that you can control the TV with your voice, and then the one on the right is more your traditional looking one with the numbers and the full set of controls. So you can see that input is, for example, missing on here, but you can access that by pressing the home button and then going from that. I'm just going to quickly show you the voice function. You'll see in the background the TV hopefully picking it up. TV. YouTube. As you can see, the TV is very responsive to voice controls. Now you will have to speak pretty clearly, and you'll have to put the remote control pretty much near your mouth in order for it to respond. But nevertheless, when it does respond, it works fantastically. Obviously, you can't tell it's a very complicated thing, so it probably won't pick up TotallydubbedHD as an example, or let's say, I don't know, like one of the reviews I've got, let's say One More Spearhead VRX, it probably won't pick up something like that. But if you said something like a soundbar, or if you said something like TV, it will pick those controls up. Now in terms of the remote itself, what I quite like is that the button over here is not only up and down, as you can see in the background, but if you press it down, it also mutes the sound as well. So it's a small little feature to add, but I quite like what Samsung have done with the remote. At least this one and this one, if you're not looking for smart features, then this is pretty much your go-to, because you've got all the source input buttons and guide buttons that you'd ever require. Next up, let's talk about the TV's interface. Now, the TV's interface is very easy to access by pressing the home button on either of the remotes, but the one I'm using, as I said before, is the smart one. Now, you can customize this look, you can customize all those little applets that are here, and you can install new ones if you so wish. You can even reorder them, so for example, if I go down, you can press to remove or remove them. Very useful for accessing your favorite things. For example, we as in my girlfriend and I, like using BBC iPlayer or like going on YouTube. Then we can quickly do so at the just basically a click of one or two buttons, then have to scour around the TV's settings to find them. Now, it also comes with TV Plus, which is Samsung's very own way of displaying Ultra HD content, which is very nice. You've got ambient mode, which for those who don't know, it basically creates some sort of like a wallpaper for your TV. It looks nice, but it's not something I'd ever use. Maybe you'd have it like if you're having a housewarming party or something like that, you'd have ambient mode playing in the background. So for example, if I were to enable that, you'd have your TV showing something like this, and then you'd have some music playing in the background, and obviously at the top left hand side you've also got the time and the weather. Very small feature, but something that some people might like to use if they're wanting to have the TV running kind of in the background. Just going to mute that. Now, moving on to the rest of the interface. Now, the settings are pretty comprehensive. You've got a very nice array of settings to go from, and it's to be expected from a TV of this sort of stature. And in the picture mode, I've gone for standard. I know some people prefer to use it on the movie setting simply because you get some sort of better calibration, but nevertheless, you've got all the settings that you'd ever require. Now, here are my settings that I'll just quickly scroll through so you guys can see what I'm actually running on. This is not to say it's the best settings, it's not to say it's the one that you should be using, or neither is the one that's probably going to be the best settings for your certain scenarios, but nevertheless, these are my settings that I'm using. Now, in terms of the sound, it's something that I wanted to touch on because I've currently got it connected to the soundbar, which is the Samsung N850 via Wi-Fi, and yes, this TV does have Wi-Fi, so it's great for connectivity, but I'd like to also touch upon its sound that you actually get via the TV speaker itself. Now, if I just move on to YouTube, and if I go to search for copyright-free music, play some music, and I'll link this down in the description. Now, as you're probably able to hear, the sound is good. It's not amazing. Obviously, a soundbar will always be better as a better option if you want a great immersive experience. But out of the box, I must say the sound is very nice, and it can be tweaked via the settings. You can change kind of like the slight EQ of the actual TV speaker's settings. But nevertheless, I must say I'm quite impressed with the overall TV's output. It does obviously miss in terms of the low-end bass and the very nice high-end extension, but in terms of the overall soundstage, I was very much impressed to see how well it copes and how well it almost portrayed the sound coming on the 360 sound. So what I'm going to do right now is unmute it and then go to the soundbar, and you will hopefully hear a difference. So you're probably able to hear right there how the actual TV speaker sounds. As I said, it's not great, but at the same time, for the fact that it's a built-in speaker, it's not actually bad at all for what Samsung have offered over here. So props to them for actually producing decent speakers on a TV. Now let's move on to the most important part, the actual image quality and the overall performance. Now, how does this display look? Now, the Samsung QLED TV uses, obviously, as the name would suggest, QLED technology. If you're not sure what that is, I'll link it down in the description below so you guys get a more thorough look of what it is all about. Now, this TV in particular has HDR, it's got 4K as well. In terms of HDR, it goes HDR10, HLG and HDR10 Plus support, so pretty much any HDR content you throw at it, it will do. 4K resolution as well, so Ultra HD, as you'd expect, again, for a TV of its price range, but nevertheless, thought to mention it. But there are a few features over here that might be forgotten with a lot of people. First of all, it's the overall brightness that this monitor can get to. Monitor, should I say, the TV. Now the TV itself gets to 2000 nits. Now 2000 nit is absolutely ridiculous. Now I tested this with a calibrator. Unfortunately, I'm not going to show you now because it'll be kind of silly, but nevertheless I put a HDR stream on it via 4K Blu-ray player, put a calibrator via PC using DisplayCal, and measured the overall nits that I got. Which is, in other words, the overall brightness I got via the TV, and at the center point it got 2000, over 2000, I think 2100 nits, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, why should you care about that? Well, simply because if you're using a HDR image and you want to have the best sort of experience, that sort of capabilities of the TV will give you the best sort of HDR picture quality. It's not to say higher is better, there's lots of factors with HDR images, let alone the actual panel quality itself, which I'll get into in just a bit. But the fact that the TV is capable of outputting such a high brightness means that in certain areas where it needs to dim or it needs to brighten up a picture, the TV will be capable of doing that. And it's great to see that actually the TV does fit this spec. Now, I talked about color and I talked about how the panel would do. Now, this is a QLED TV, it's not an OLED TV. Now, based on simply on the technology, the deep blacks that you get from OLED are going to be inherently better than a QLED. No matter what sort of trick that Samsung can throw at it, it's never going to compete with the sheer technology. A versus B, it's never going to be the same thing. However, that's not to say it's a bad TV when it comes to deep blacks, far from it. Deep blacks are very, very beautiful, as black as you can get essentially, and when you're looking at a HDR image, which this is an SDR image that you've got in front of you, if you look at an HDR image, it will really come out in its true self. You'll get deep blacks appearing as deep blacks and not greyish or bluish like you'd expect in certain LCD QLED TVs or sort of normal LCD LED TVs. So very impressive what Samsung have done, and that the black levels can be tweaked via the expert settings on the picture mode, so you can get it to look as you would expect it. So for example, if you're watching Batman and you want it to be slightly darker, then you can do so by tweaking that through the expert settings. Now, moving in terms of the color accuracy and the overall color vibrancy, I must say Samsung have done a fantastic job. Now, I was watching the World Cup, so I've had the TV for a little while. I wanted to make sure I had the TV for a while before reviewing it, in order to go through all its features and its pros and cons. But when I was watching the World Cup in Ultra HD via, I think it was BBC who were streaming it via Ultra HD, I must say it was incredible. The colour vibrancy you got from the pitch, so as in like the football pitch, even from the players' close-ups, and you got, let's say, you're looking at David De Gea, or you're looking at any other player, let's say Harry Kane, then those close-ups, the colour accuracy that you had on the person's face, from their skin tone to the shirt they were wearing to the crest and everything like that, was absolutely incredible. It's very much got that vibrant punch to it, something that you'd expect from a TV that has quantum dot technology. Very much like the monitors that Samsung does, as quantum dot technology, and therefore you get fantastic wide gamut color accuracy from DCI-P3, which is more of a TV slash a movie format, to sRGB, which is more of your average day-to-day usage that you have from a TV or a monitor or whatever you have you. So in terms of color accuracy, in terms of color vibrancy, I was very, very impressed. No matter the source I threw at it, from an SDR content, a 1080p, 720p video, I know that doesn't really affect colors, but sometimes TVs can interpolate different sources or different resolutions, or even different sources, and have it portray pretty poorly in terms of color accuracy and color vibrancy. This is not the case with this Samsung QLED TV. It does a fantastic job. So in terms of HDR, absolutely no complaints. Color accuracy, color vibrancy, no complaints either. In terms of brightness, now this TV was absolutely impressive in a bright light. Now you can see I've got a lot of bright light coming in my living room, got a lot of bright light hitting the TV, and yet at night it gets very dark, and I can pull the curtains or the blind, shall I say, and then you can have kind of like cinematic experience. Now this TV, given its spec, gets very, very bright, and at the same time can be reduced completely to the point that it can barely be seen. So therefore, if you're going to be using it in a dark scenario or a light scenario, you're not going to have a problem. This TV is going to be able to cope with whatever you throw at it in terms of its ambient light conditions. So very impressive in terms of backlight. Now, it's to be expected because this has full array of local dimming. In other words, it's got around 300 or so LEDs positioned throughout the TV, and therefore you can get a perfectly bright image which can cope with anything you throw at it. So when I talked about HDR before, that the FALD, as they call it, really aids the HDR image, but also enables you to have a better overall brightness uniformity at no matter the brightness levels. So be it at night or during the day under bright sunlight conditions, those little LED diodes are going to be great no matter how you look at them. Now, one other thing I want to mention is viewing angles. It's something of a weakness that QLED TVs have over OLED TVs. I honestly didn't have any problem looking at it from it, not 180 degrees, but maybe about 150 degrees. Obviously the color accuracy is not going to be as perfect, but I had absolutely no problem looking at it at a more extreme angle. So sitting at the table and watching the TV, and no problems in terms of seeing it. You don't get that sort of weird shift that you might see in an older school TV. And I know we're way past those days, but you'd be surprised at finding smartphones that still have it on them. So in terms of viewing angles, again, no complaints there. Now in terms of its gaming performance, now I had an Xbox connected to it. Unfortunately, I don't have the latest Xbox One X, and therefore I cannot benefit from certain features. For example, the variable refresh rate, the VRR, or the auto low latency mode. I couldn't really benefit from them because I didn't have an Xbox One X or a similar high-end console, because I'm a PC gamer. But however, I do have an older school Xbox. I had an Xbox One S, which I connected up, and a 4K Blu-ray player. Now, 4K Blu-ray player has nothing to do with gaming, but just to tell you in terms of input. But in terms of its gaming performance, it is very good. And reading around the net as well, I can see that people who have reviewed it and have had a console have reported very good results with low latency mode and those variable refresh rates. Therefore, you get a very nice experience when it comes to gaming. So very much a low input lag, which is something you always want from a TV, because it's something you'd expect from a monitor, but not so much a TV. But here, Samsung seem to have done the job, but I cannot personally tell you that. I'm just telling you from what I've read online to save yourself the trouble of researching it. So Samsung seem to have done a good job in that. One other thing I would also want to mention is the ghosting and the blurring or the trailing, especially when it comes to sports. You can see over here that it had no sort of problems with when it came to smearing. The same went for the Formula 1, so when I was watching it on full HD, terrestrial TV, the Formula 1 on Channel 4 looked absolutely beautiful. Again, no visual sort of smearing, and right now you'll be able to see some touring cars going around, which was, I think, on ITV. Again, that was HD, full HD TV. If not, it was a terrestrial TV, which is non-HD. So again, those cases for fast-moving sports, I had no problem with watching any of the sports, and I must say it was very impressive. I didn't see any sort of trailing. And again, your settings may vary. As I said, I showed you at the beginning of the video my settings that I personally use. I felt that gave me the best experience, But nevertheless, if you've got any questions, make sure you pop them in comments below. So now, to summarize, what do I think of the TV? Now, I know it's been a long video, but I really did want to cover everything and showcase everything that I could have showcased in this video for you guys. Now, its picture quality is fantastic. It's absolutely beautiful. It is very expensive. It does have a very nice control box. It has a nice sort of interface which works pretty much 9.5 times out of 10 flawlessly, and the 0.5 times you get a bit of a laggy experience, but nevertheless it does work very well. The search function works well as well. The TV sound is impressive for a TV of its size and of its thickness, and its gaming performance, from what I've read online, is also very good. So overall, how does this TV do? Well, if you're looking for a top-end TV and you want a 55-inch or bigger TV, then the Samsung QLED Q9FN is a fantastic choice. It's definitely up there with some of the best TVs money can buy. And it's dropped in price since it initially launched, making it a little bit more of an attractive price. And granted, £2,100 is not a cheap price to pay at all. But if you're in a market for a high-end TV, that's the price you're going to have to pay in order to get the best, shall I say, features that you'd ever expect from an average day TV. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Now, if you've enjoyed this review, make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe, favourite, and share, and all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the TV, or if you own it, or if other TVs you've got. Unfortunately, I can't tell you if you're going to tell me how does this compare to this flagship LG OLED TV. Unfortunately, I don't have that LG OLED TV to compare it to. If I get enough requests, maybe LG will send me one, but till that day, I can only go based on my own experiences, my own eyes, the calibrator that I shoved on it, and my experience of PC monitors. That is very vast, and if anything, without trying to sound too boastful, probably one of the only channels that has over 110 monitor reviews that you can find. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye-bye.